invite you to proceed to the lecture, please. It is my privilege to invite the esteemed Vice Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs, Member of Knesset, Tzipi Livni, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, today, 64 years ago, the Auschwitz-Birkenau death camp was liberated by the Allied forces. Today, we mark the annual International Holocaust Remembrance Day in memory of the victims of the Holocaust. To be a Jewish mother is to look at your children and wonder if they are old enough to care for themselves without you. To be a Jewish mother is to look at your children and to ask yourself whether the right choice would be to keep them with you or to tell them to leap off the train. To be an Israeli is to know that you were reborn from the ashes of the victims and that you have a responsibility to the generations to come. To be an Israeli child is to try to fathom the number 6 million but never being able to do so. To be an Israeli is to live in a country that appears strong from the outside, but is always aware of the vulnerability of its people. To be an Israeli teenager is to visit the death camps in Europe, to see the scratch mark on the walls of the gas chamber of those who try to get out, to see the showers, the piles of shoes and hair, and never look in the same way again at things that are taken for granted by teenagers in other places. To be an Israeli mother is to suddenly discover that you have passed on to your children the collective memory and experience of the Holocaust. It is to understand that although you wanted to spare your children the pain so they would have not to bear the burden that you have carried all your life as a daughter of the Jewish people, you felt the need to pass on this memory so that your children and their children and their children's children would remember. And it is to realize that the national cause has overcome your motherly feeling. To be a Jewish leader in Israel is to ask yourself whether you had To be a Jewish leader in Israel is to ask yourself whether you would have seen the writing on the wall had you been there, and whether you would have made the right decisions at the time. It's unbearable. And for those who are trying to make this equation, I would say never do it. What we are doing is trying to prevent terror attacks on our citizens. The Israeli soldiers are acting against terror. Unfortunately, terrorists are hiding among civilians, and there is no equation, and I'm not willing to accept one, between terror and between terrorists who are looking for children to kill and between Israeli soldiers who are looking for terrorists to kill, while unfortunately we can see some civil casualties in doing so. And I would like the international community to judge Israel according to the same values that are expressed in different parts of the world, in most parts of the free world. And there is no equation between a murderer and between somebody who killed by mistake. The terrorists are murderers, and the Israeli soldiers are acting against terror, even though in doing so we can have some civil casualties.